Yes Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
It's time for another quick fireside chat on investing today in tomorrow's growth. And to moderate this chat, may I request Tata Venkatesh from CNBC-TV18 to please come on stage. And joining Lata would be a leader with a career spanning over 4 decades who has spearheaded multiple leadership positions across the power sector value chain in his current role as the CEO and Managing Director of one of India's oldest and largest integrated power utilities. He has been instrumental in transforming a century-old power utility company into a new age, sustainable, technology-oriented, customer-centric, green energy solutions company. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Praveer Sinha, CEO and MD, Tata Power. So Lata and Praveer will be shortly here. I think off the table conversation is happening right outside because both of them are not here. Should have them shortly here.
Mr. Praveer Sinha needs no introduction, has made Tata Power a power to reckon with, a 1 lakh crore company now, like many of the other Tata Group companies. But let's concentrate more on power in this discussion of our movement towards a 10 trillion economy. I mean, power is absolutely the basic thing that India has to get right. And you will have to admit that some very basic steps have been taken from the time of independence. To give credit where it's due, the Tatas were the first to think about power. Hydel Power, the first Hydel Power station in the country, coming up near Mumbai to charge the textile mills. And thereafter, the government of India, after freedom, taking, Bhakra Nangal, Hirakud project, all those massive projects, the new temples, or what temples of New India. So we started off on a track. But where we seem to have lost our way is our inability to respect the importance of the contract. I mean, a distribution company takes power from the power generator on the promise of payment and doesn't pay. So the contract is abrogated or violated there. The DISCOM is violating because the government, the state government which has promised a subsidy has not paid. There are places where there are local Bahubalis who have captured a certain area and do not, just demand free power and get it. So everywhere, the contract was violated, and that led to the whole power sector getting mired. We have to clean that up if we have to get to the 10 trillion economy. It is as basic as Jan-Dhan and a telephone for everyone. We have to reach power, and for that, we have to clean up these alleyways of payments. So let me start over there, Mr. Praveer Sinha. We've seen some very good progress in terms of the late payment surcharge. So that's apparently brought down some of the DISCOM dues. Likewise, you can't access IEX or the power exchange. Now, would you say that we are at least halfway through in terms of cleaning up the DISCOM problem?
First of all, thank you, Lata, and thank you, HS. Thank you to Yes Bank and to CNBC for the opportunity. I think the power sector has transformed a lot in the last 20 years, whether we see in terms of the capacity addition. Every 10 years, the capacity has doubled in the country. 2000, we were about 100 gigawatt. 2010, we became 200, and today we are more than 430 gigawatts. So I think every 10 years, there has been a huge transition. And the distribution has been the weakest link in the power sector. The generation companies have done well, the transmission, but it is in the distribution where all the cash is collected. And that's where the challenge is, that many a times, because of political pull and pressure, the DISCOMs are not able to do well because one is that they don't get subsidy on time. Secondly, there has been general apathy in the distribution sector. There has been corruption. There has been also a lot of theft of electricity that takes place. And I think because of all these reasons, the DISCOM's financial health has been very bad. It was the cumulative losses of all the DISCOMs put together was something like 5 lakh crore, and it keeps on adding every year. And while number of steps have been taken in last 5 years, we still have a long way to go, whereby we give the freedom of the consumers to decide with whom they would like to purchase power or who should be the service provided, like in telecom or in any other sector it is there. So those changes have to happen. If you remember last year, the government was very keen, the union government was talking about the amendment to the Electricity Act, whereby you can have multiple suppliers. So I think a lot of changes have happened, but there is a lot that is required. And if we have to really become a 10 trillion economy and more, then the power sector reforms have to happen, because power is very, very important and critical that it reaches everyone, whether it is in urban areas, for industries, for commercial, or in rural areas, because everyone today requires power for their consumption, and it has to be affordable. It is not something that people can pay any amount of money. So it's very, very important that affordable power has to be provided to all types of consumer. And this is one big reform which is still waiting to happen. I do hope that after the elections we will have an Electricity Act amendment whereby the distribution sector will be opened for multiple players, including private players from India and outside India. And we may provide the universal access of power 24/7 everywhere in the country.
Well, that's well spoken. It's just an old habit as a banking reporter to start with the banking or the lending borrowing problem. I really wanted to start with the excellent budget announcements. Now, like in telecom, we were ridden with, the black telephone, and you stood for long lines. You applied for a telephone in the 90s also, and then you got the telephone 5 years later, 10 years later, probably after paying a bribe. The whole thing was solved by technology. The cell phone came and we cleaned up. Do you think this brilliant announcement in the budget that the government is going for solar rooftops for 1 crore homes, and some amount has already been set aside in the FY25 budget, you think that is an answer? You all are in solar power, rooftop solar yourself. Do you think this is a stepping stone to getting rid of the DISCOM problem? Because this is almost like a cell phone. You have the rooftop solar, so there is no intermediary of a DISCOM. Is this an answer?
I don't think this is the only answer. And just to put it in perspective, while it will go and do rooftop for 1 crore homes, we have actually 26 crore homes in the country. So there are 26 crore consumers who are there in the country, and we need to reach out to all of them. While it is a very good step, especially to small consumers, residential consumers of 2, 3, 4, 5 kilowatt, who will get opportunity to light up their homes and also empower them, whereby they can produce power, they can use it themselves, give it in the grid, and thereby become a net earner of money, of revenue for themselves. So I think it's a very good starting step, but much more needs to be done, and it is not the panacea for all the challenges which is there in the power sector. But I think somewhere you need to start, and it's really a welcome move from the government.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that we are not yet informed on how it will be fleshed out. It's an announcement at the budget, and the new government will come in only in perhaps mid-May, and we will know who is our new power minister only perhaps by the first week of June. So clearly it's only then that we will get, but it just seems like it can be an answer out of the DISCOM mess. Now, speaking of which, solar in general, Mr. Sinha, we were discussing before we came in, there are say, technology mavericks on power who say that you can have window panes which are solar panels. You can have new buildings which are constructed in such a way that they consume less energy because they're generating electricity. How far is this technology? Will we, now every building in Mumbai ought to have water harvesting. Will we at some point in time have every building having enough solar panels so you're not depending on the grid? Is that feasible?
So first of all, I think there has been very good penetration of solar energy in the country. Now, we started very small. 2015, we were just 5 gigawatt of solar, and now today we have nearly 70 gigawatt. So it has been a rapid increase in solarization that has taken place in the country, and much more has to happen. In fact, the ambitious plan that by 2030 we'll have 500 gigawatt, out of which nearly 250 will be actually coming out of solar, because most parts of the country we have more than 300 days of sunshine. So I think solar will play a it's actually the new oil for India, and it will play a very, very important role going forward. Now, coming to new applications, new technologies, it's not just the photovoltaic, there are thin films, there are organic materials, there are peroxides. So I think many of the new technologies which are coming, you don't need to have a substrate like glass or substrate which are materials which are heavy material. You can do it on a plastic sheet and you can paste it on the wall or paste it on your glass sheet on the window pane. So there are new applications, new technologies which are coming. There are also new technologies coming whereby these energies can be stored. It is not that it is only during daytime you have solar, so you can store it whether it is in battery storage or it can be pumps hydro storage. And so I think the days when we will have 24/7 renewable will definitely happen. It may take time because some of the new technologies are still getting developed, and also they need to be cost effective, because power is one where it cannot be freely priced in the market. It is something which has to be very, very regulated and very controlled, because you have all types of consumers who require this, and the affordability will be a very important aspect in the consumption and growth of power sector. So I think the new changes, the new technologies and the cutting edge work that is happening globally, many of them we will start seeing in next 5 to 7 years.
Okay. I'm coming to the time element in just a minute. Let me discuss another element for which Tata Power has become famous, or maybe it needs to become more famous, the microgrid. Can you tell us what has been Tata Power's experience? Maybe you even need to tell all of us how exactly this microgrid works and how much can it be scaled up?
So microgrids are basically off-grid solutions which typically consist of solar modules. It consists of storage batteries, and as a backup we started initially with DG sets because in the night time when you don't have either the solar or you don't have the battery storage, then you have the DG set. But this is not the best of the solutions. Now some of the solutions using bio-CNG has been developed. And what we are looking at is how do we scale this up. India has 600,000 villages, sub-Sahara, 49 countries have huge number of areas where universal access of energy is not there. And the whole objective is that how do we take this energy in an affordable manner and in a scalable manner. What we have seen over a period of time is that when you bring power, and our experience in India where we have put 200 of them, is that when you bring power, you actually develop the micro enterprise over there. We have seen atta chakkis now working from 8 to 8 or 8 to 10 also in the night. You have seen oil expellers, you have seen many of the shops which are there, whether it is the dispensary.
So the productivity of the town goes up.
So the productivity of the town and alternate employment opportunity comes. So it's actually a driver of economic activities in villages. And if we can really bring a financially viable solution which sustain on its own. Because if it is not sustainable, then what happens is you can do 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000 based on some CSR grant, but it cannot be scaled up in the numbers that we are looking at.
26 crore homes.
Yeah, so 6 lakh villages. So that's the type of penetration it can have. So I think this is a very, very ambitious program that we are working in Tata Power along with some of our partners from MIT and some of the other institutions globally. We feel that we should be able to crack this, and this can become a great example of how we can provide a solution which can bring about the economic prosperity in rural areas.
Now let me come to the time element. You have spoken about several technological developments which, if scaled up, can really solve solve the problem which thermal couldn't solve. You spoke about solar panels, you spoke about rooftop solar panels, solar energy, and you have spoken about microgrids. How would you say is the time frame? We are speaking about India as a Viksit, as a developed country by 2047, and perhaps a 10 trillion economy much earlier than that. How much time would you give for all these technologies to bear fruition and electrify the country economically?
I think the government itself has talked that 50% of the energy by 2030 will come from clean energy sources. And I'm quite bullish about it that this should be possible, if not 100% of 500 gigawatt coming. It may happen at least to a very large extent. The second thing is that how do we make this power not intermittent but continuous power, and that's where I think some of the technologies which is happening, and which includes not only the storage technology but also alternate technologies in SMRs, which is the small modular reactors for nuclear reactors, and some of the other technologies in storage that are being developed. Hopefully in next 5 to 7 years they may see the light of the day, and I do believe that the type of work that is happening, the cutting edge technology work that is happening globally, and there is a deep amount of seriousness with which people are working, this will happen. By the end of this decade, we'll have multiple good clean energy solutions available globally as also in our country.
Well, that's such a nice thing to hear. I mean, end of the decade is not all that far away. We'll live to see it, unlike perhaps, 2040 or 2070 when we are, supposed to completely get to net zero. This looks so much more achievable. Just one final question. Tell us about the story of Tata Power itself. I mean, what made, if you, I assume that you would know the story. What made Jamshedji Tata think of Tata Power that early? 109 years. 109 years ago. What sparked that? And now, how is it that you all so correctly, timely thought of moving from thermal to solar? I mean, that also seemed to be ahead of the times. Suddenly ESG is upon us and, coal is a dirty word. But how did you all presage it?
So this is a very interesting story. Way back in 1900, Jamshedji Tata used to stay in Mumbai city, and we had all these textile mills which were there in Parel area, and they used to use coal at that time for the textile mills and for boiling water and using it for bleaching purpose. And he saw the smoke in the Mumbai city, and he said that I need to find out a solution which brings in clean energy. And that's how he went around and saw that there are a lot of areas in which water can be collected, and the various plants which came up, which was the Khapoli plant or the Bhivpuri plant or the Bhira plant, have all water reservoirs in the catchment area of Western Ghats. And the power was produced in 1915, the first plant, the second in 1921, and the third in 1927. And the challenge, of course, was to how do you bring that power, because Bombay being an island, how do you bring the transmission of power to? But I think what he at that time thought, and I'm told that this was based on a voyage that he took along with Swami Vivekanand, where he said that if a growth of a country, you need to produce clean power, you need to produce affordable power, and you need to produce abundant power if the country has to grow. So I think we had people like Vivekanand and Jamshedji Tata who were really visionaries, and they showed us the way, and we continue to follow that path.
Okay. I think this deserves a round of applause. It's a fascinating story. We do need technology, we do need money, we do need these solutions, but ultimately we need visionaries. We need people who can think so far ahead. So may there be 1,000 leaders, may there be tens of thousands of leaders, both in corporate India and in the districts and states, who are able to charge up and organize the country into a new paradigm for the 10 trillion and beyond. Thank you very much, Mr. Sinha, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And for a very inspiring conversation.
Thank you very much, Lata.
Yes Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.